raising the issue for the last 2 years is that the state is now creating the mega integrated database which citizens of the state do not need. You know, previously we were told that there should be a register prior to starting to issue the passports. We see that this is not true. And it is enough to have this existing resource. We do not have to invest billions into creating a register. And we're talking about $1 billion or so hryvnia. We've been criticizing the state migration service for several years. We thought that they will be ready to switch to a more constructive dialogue. However, there are only accusations from their part, and there is no dialogue. It is very good that we see the head of the press service of the State Migration Service, and maybe you will be able to ask something of them. And our colleague Nadiya Dobryanska will tell you about our civic initiative and alternative. Because even last year we have drafted a law that provides for an alternative constructive position. And the state does not heed this, although there is a democratic government at power. Hello. So, the draft law is already at the parliament. We drafted it in the hope that it will be adopted sometime. It was drafted by the Center for Political and Legal Reforms, also Dmitro Kotlyar, one of the well-known experts in the protection of personal data, and experts of the International Migration Organization, who is a recognized European expert in documents in IDs. In the passport sphere, we have now a lot of lacunes that are regulated not by laws but by some legal acts. And our draft law provides for the issuing of different documents for their lifetime. It also replaces internal passports, domestic passports, with a plastic ID. I think many people will be happy that the entire procedure of gluing photos into a passport will go away. And it also regulates documents that IDs foreigners. We will have standardized documents analogous to what they have in the European Union, and also there will be a single payment, one ticket of administrative charge for every document. It can be increased if there is an accelerated procedure for getting the document, and we calculated that in the usual time scale you have to pay 250 hryvnia and 500 hryvnia for the accelerated. But the main thing is that human rights activists have been fighting for the adoption of against the law that says that there should be a different register for every document, and that we say that there shouldn't be a single huge register which will collect data for everybody in the country. We have a respective draft law, And we would like state experts and government experts to join in working, because this is the sphere of responsibility of the government. And of course, MPs play an important role here, but we have the cooperation of all the branches of power. And I also invite representatives of the State Migration Service to say a few words. Hello, everybody. I want to say that as of the 1st of January, or rather from the 12th of January, we started to accept documents to issue biometric passports, and we have now the first batch of them printed that were issued or are to be issued at accelerated rates. At the first stage, because there was not enough money to buy equipment, we bought only 30 job places to locate them at the territorial divisions, but in February we will have all the necessary equipment. 680 job places will be installed, and the problem will be solved to the full scope. So everybody who would get them without queues, because of course at the moment we've seen some queues. But at the moment the situation is stabilizing, and it will be sold in February. As far as the cost is concerned, it is a well-raised question. We are working on this, and we should not be blamed for the lack of will to solve it. We have addressed the Cabinet of Ministers in order to solve this issue at the level of the government to point the single payment, but our proposal is not being supported by the Ministry of Finance of Ukraine, because the mechanism of redistribution of this money to the special fund is impossible now, according to the Ministry of Finance. And the 780 million hryvnia every year that goes for the purchase of blank passports is not there. We talked to the Ministry of Justice and Ministry of Finance last week, but we were not able to reach a consensus. We will inform the government today on the situation and about the necessity to have a single unified payment, because it is true that the State Migration Service shall only issue the document, but not to define how many tickets there will be and invoices. We have the Ministry of Finance, which is responsible for this sphere, for the prices, for the formation of prices. So I think that the major proposal should stem from them. When we are told which payment this is, we will raise it from all the citizens. And the cost of the blank passport is really defined by the manufacturer. At the moment, this is the state printed combine Ukraine, which is under the administration of the National Bank of Ukraine. We have signed a contract with them, and we are acting according to the contract. We do want to solve the issue, and we hope that the government will put a full stop to this issue. About the state demographic register law, you know, it does not only pertain to the register, but also about the issue of documents, and there's a list of documents, for instance, the biometric passport to go abroad, and other documents that are stipulated, but this register will be issued this year as well. This is the traveling document of a refugee and a temporary passport. And we have a set of measures that is to be fulfilled in this sphere. So at the moment, our service thinks that we should not replace the clauses about the issuance of documents with another law is not feasible. We also engaged in the internal ID in the form of a plastic card. This is also a European document. At the moment, the experts are drawing our attention to the fact that in our country, the primary identification of citizens is at a very low level. You all have your domestic passports as a book that is being issued on the basis of paper documents. We have lost the territory of Crimea, and people who stayed there and who are now going to the rest of the territory of Ukraine to get and some document have a problem about the identification. This also pertains to people who live in Luhansk and Donetsk region in the zone of the anti-terrorist operation. So at the moment, every country that is concerned about its national security should think about a unified system of identification of citizens. As far as for the identification registers, why no one says that we have the single voters register, which contains all the information on all the people who are voters? So there's 36 million people there. It is already there. So we have to work on the single state register of voters to remove some inaccuracies and inadequacies, and then work to develop it, because the state has invested a lot of money into it. I have my first question to the expert. Where have you got the figure about 300 hryvnia? The price issue for the price for the issue of the passport is composed of several components. The first thing is that for one administrative service you should have only one payment, and it has to cover the cost of work for the state for the issue of this passport. We think that this sum up to 300 hryvnia has to be sufficient, because the blank passport costs 261 hryvnia. The work time is 20 minutes for servicing one customer, and we think, by the way, that the cost of the blank document is a bit high. For instance, the Finnish manufacturer prints blank documents for Moldova for less than €7. Let the printing combine Ukraine show us the calculation, and we'll see. I think that 300 hryvnia is just taking into account the average salary in Ukraine. We want to compare this with Czech Republic, where they pay 21 euros, or Slovakia, where they pay 33 euros. Yes, it is more than we pay, but we know their salaries as well. Your questions, colleagues, to our speakers. I have another question. The rehabilitation package of reforms, in democratic countries, France, Holland, and other, have special laws forbidding to create a single register of demographic citizens, because this is a instrument to fight democracy. But what is the difference between this register and the register of voters? The register of voters has only your name and date of birth and the place of residence, but the demographic register is much broader, including all your marriages and all your children and all your privatization certificates And we know that it can be, the number of indexes can be increased. And we know that criminals can take, and corrupted people can take any data from this. And by launching such a register, we violate a European convention. Well, let's take Estonia or Lithuania. They have the registers of their citizens, and Georgia as well. And the registers are functioning there, but we also want to introduce several changes into the law of the unified state register to remove the clauses that contradict the law of the single demographic union, demographic register. Sometime when they go to the banks or to shops, no one thinks that they are giving away their personal data. Then the responsibility of the protection of this data lies with the security service of the shop where I left my data. But when you merge all the data into one single register, who will be responsible for this? At the moment, we hope that we will be able to introduce changes into this law, and everything that pertains to privatization documents, and the rest, we suggest that it is being taken away because this does not pertain to the law. And of course, there are some abstract norms there, and I think that we should exclude them so that people understand clearly how the register acts and how the data is protected by the state. I have another question coming back to the price for the passport. Whether did you ask the Ukraine polygraphic combined so that they show you the price, the calculation of the price? We asked for the calculation from the State Migration Service, but they did not give us, and the minister said that 261 hryvnias. So we did not ask the printing combine, but thank you for prompting us. We will ask them. Yes, we are, we also asked about the president getting the first passport. We sent a letter about this. For instance, what they used the 150 million in, according to the decision in November. And we know that the foreign minister has re-equipped their job stations, and the State Migration Service is going for new job stations. I think that we can also ask the Ministry for Foreign Affairs so that they give us the analysis of the world practice, so that they give us the analysis of the cost in the world, because the cost of the blank document and the cost of the entire process are different things, and €7 in Moldova is a rather different volume of money. I do not understand the experts. You have sent your requests, and for instance, Tatiana can tell us about the state enterprise document, and if you take the calculation of the cost of the biometric passport, then there's a sum of 796 hryvnia that people have to pay. including the cost of services of the State Migration Service, all 87. Could you tell us about specific sums? As for the duty, everyone knows that this is 170, confirmed by the Cabinet of Ministers, or rather the decree on the duty. The cost of the service, 87, was defined in 2011. As for the cost of the blank passport, 261. You know, the passport is an electronic carrier of information about the person, and it is calculated according to the contract with the printed combined Ukraine, so you should address them for the cost. As far as 250 hryvnia for the state enterprise document, they have independently bought the equipment and installed work offices so that to provide independently their services according to the legislation. And this is for this that they get the 2,150. We thought that this is a briefing and that the discussion is not in place here, but this 87 hryvnia and the payment for the black document that were recognized illegal by the High Court of Ukraine. And this decision is, this court ruling is obligatory for the Migration Service and for every state body of Ukraine. And in every case when a citizen refused to pay for those two services, every court supported them on the precedent of the ruling of the High Court, because they said that the state duty covers this. And of course, legally, the passport of biometric or non-biometric is the same document. If the State Migration Service was an honest institution, then the head of the service should have said, my dear friends, I cannot accept this payment anymore, and the only thing that you can do is to raise the state duty. Regrettably, the State Migration Service continues to violate the law. And about the package documents and about the state enterprise document, they do not tell us why it is in existence, while it is banned by the law. Which law? Part 7 of the Article 20 of the Law on Administrative Service says that the state enterprises should have been stopped, and this norm was written specifically for your state enterprise document.
Because in the service of documents, you know what it means. Which package of documents people bring together that in internal passport and identification contract. Can the citizens do the same? Application is filled by their clerk, nobody else, and the big document cannot do that. But I repeat one more time, 100 times, it works. Why? Probably somebody is interested in that because the DP document collects 250 for every passport, but they provide services not only with foreign passports, but with other, like consulting, information, mediators, when they register. When you want to get the registration with the operations with internal passports, probably it's, there is a lot of money. We'll set a request. We would like to understand how they spend that money. Though we have some suspicion because when there was an audit, they always said there was a violations for hundreds of millions for such services, because they were buying some cedars, so they paid everything they wanted. So we needed to investigate. We are an analytical organization. We'd like to have order in procedures and in order. It's also up to you journalists to find out how they spend their money. Let me repeat the question. Ask questions. Could you comment? DP document that issued passports, the passport to the president. Is it that's a state enterprise which works in the field of state migration service, which can provide additional services according to the statute of that enterprises. If it was illegal, and there is a law in the state would close it, and it's functioning since 2013, and there are a lot of complaints. But it's working. If it is closed, it will not work, so it will be closed, and that's it. And as to the law on administrative services, that law provides personnel law, because in 2013 it was approved the list of administrative services and the payment for those administrative services, and all the issues were solved. Now it's 2015, we don't have that law. And we have a lot of questions. As to additional services, the answer of DPS is DP document can live because they don't provide administrative services. They give additional services or accompanying services, like Xerox, lamination of documents, bank services. So it's not what the DP document is doing, because the only what they charge money for, that's for countable conditions, just for a good office, for regulation of the line. That's what de facto they charge money for. For DP document, even this government, with the request of the Minister of Economy, they put amendments to one sub-law, what cannot be loaned to a list of administrative services, and it says selling documents and forms for documents, providing consultations and information. So assistance to get a documents. Everything the DP document does, that is prohibited by our laws. Let's note our briefing, this briefing for one channel show, one TV channel show. DP document company provides a consultant for 250 hryvnia. This is about DP document in Lutsk and our initiative group. We have more than 60 courts that we won, courts of proceedings, and it says clearly Volynsk DPS is illegal. And there was an appeal, and we are going to come and see a DP document. One more time, it is blocking in our city the work of SNAP. And there is an agreement with SNAP and DMS of Ukraine. And until now, through different tricks, they don't allow SNAP to work and to provide services. And they do everything possible for the DP document to be able to charge money from people. As to SNAP, let me clarify. We have the law on administrative services and 523 regulation, and which we are using in our work. And since October 1st, we had to stop providing administrative services to register the place of living and to issue passports. And then there was a meeting before that, Vice Prime Minister Roisman, and he authorized us to get information on readiness of regional state administration to provide those services. And also then, when they confirmed that they were able to stop providing those services, we did. That's what we did. We don't have information about Volyn, about full readiness to provide those services. To send our people, for them to provide our services in SNAP, we cannot do that because we reduce our staff, and also will reduce our staff by 20%. We will not be able to work. Or administrators are working. We provide our process through SNAPs, or we are working in parallel. This is the situation. We have a comment from a representative of the press service. Let me respond to this because this is a clear case. This is not about foreign passports, but it's about the services of the mass. Lutsk center is the best in Ukraine. They really sent the decision to provide those services through the center. They started to provide those services successfully in DMS because in Volyn region there was a constructive local leader. He sent someone from his staff, and Lutsk is probably the same was the best in providing those services. But they registered about 300 people in half an hour. They did all the rest of the operations. As soon as our organization showed Lutsk as a good example, as a success story, there could be a cooperation between the centers and DMS. You know what happened at DMS? I called back the staff person from the back office because they found an violation of the law. Now people cannot get documents, cannot get services in 30 minutes. Unfortunately, I will repeat myself. So we criticized them, and we had to criticize the leader of DMS, and we have to criticize the Minister of Interior because constructive cooperation with local self-governance and migration service does not exist, and that's why the people suffer, and the society, and also the image of the new government. But because we see that in some sectors the life is not better but worse. State Migration Service of Ukraine Press Service, and I asked there is an organization, Europe Without Barriers, and Nadiya Dobryanska is the leader of that organization. During this event, I asked her to provide information about cost people pay in other countries. And Moldova, in hryvnia, they gave me this information. You can check it. It's more than 1,076 hryvnia if to convert to hryvnia. So in Ukraine, it's not. I don't take Lithuania 43 euro. It's much more. But if you take Moldova, that was mentioned by Viktor, probably it's more expensive than in Ukraine. First point. Second, you spoke about 250 and the state enterprise document on Boulevard Shevchenko 27. I saw the cameras. So the services of document enterprise are not compulsory. Someone who comes to Boulevard Shevchenko 27 to get a passport, they do it on that's their conscious choice. And I was just there, and I gave comments to one of the TV channels. I can tell you, there are people who are not happy. That people make a conscious choice to go there. In addition to what he told here, Viktor says there are comfortable conditions, and there is E-line, and they have something that the state cannot provide. Those conditions we cannot provide to everyone. That enterprise is not financed from the state budget, and that enterprise belongs to the state. It is under the control of the state. What he told about Mercedes is there are transparent mechanisms how to control spendings by state enterprises in Ukraine, not only with that enterprise only. Just try to get that information. Probably you have to be more balanced when you speak about these things. Services that are provided, people choose whether to use that or not, and there are compulsory payments according to the law, and it was they were mentioned by Tatiana Vasilyevna. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you. Thank you. Experts, I would like to thank representatives of the State Migration Service. We would like to see you in a month and a half with updates. Press briefing of ATO spokesperson Mr. Lysenko. Colonel Lysenko will start in 10 minutes. Thank you very much.